So, hello everyone, and we are in of fortune to discuss this important subject, Dharanatas. So, first, I would like to a little bit introduce who is Dharanata. Okay? Okay, so maybe I say first why we are so fortunate to have opportunity to discuss with Dharanata's Zhentong, because to reach in our Buddha nature, we need view and meditation on what we established view, and then improve our conduct. Only that way, everybody in that way. So to establish view is first. So that is the highest and thoroughly establishing view is the most in this way, in Zhentong way, especially in this Zhentong, the ornaments of the Zhentong view this way. That's the reason we are the most fortunate, have opportunity to discuss this. And then second, I want to introduce the Dharanata a little bit. What I'm saying a little bit, because to introduce the Dharanata is not a very little. It's incredible stories. We cannot go over all of them, and you guys may have the opportunity to read his stories in the future. But I'm just very little introduce necessary. We must know things. That's only I'm going to tell you. Okay? So one thing is you should know that Dharanata is not a normal, typical Tibetan Lama. That you should know first. That means it's not a predictable cultural Lama, which means culturally whatever people expect, he do accordingly, only the culture. He is not that. So that you should know. Secondly, you should know that Dharanata is mastery of everything, but especially he is the mastery of Vajrayana vehicle. That I'm not talking about Jonang Vajrayana. I'm not talking about Kalachakra Vajrayana. He is mastery of Vajrayana in every tradition in authentic Tibetan lineages. Especially, he is the only person can preserve the Shangpa Guarjit traditions, the Tantrana. Fourthly, we have to know that Taranatha is a not ordinary person. He is a rare enlightened manifestation. How we know that? Through all his teachings and through his stories. He has many levels of story, not just one level of story. That means common story, what is commonly appear to the common people, and then he has more secret story, and then more secret story. Through all this, we know Taranatha is not normal. That is not just Jonang-Shambhala's saying, not Jonang-Shambhala's claim. It is anybody has a realization, anybody have high knowledge, they know that. Fourthly, Taranatha is the most Rimé, the authentic, incredible Rimé master we can say on this earth, but definitely we can say in Tibet, in every tradition. Okay? But if I say that, maybe some people have a little doubt. You could raise a little doubt. Why you could raise a little doubt could be two reasons. One, you may think, oh, if Taranatha is number one Rimé, how come the well-known Rimé is Jamgun Kongtur and Jiang Qianzi Wangbo and so forth? Some people even say fifth Dalai Lama. So, of course, there are maybe Rimé masters, but you cannot compare Taranatha. Trust me. But why he's well known as them, as Rimé? Because politics, the time, and the merit of all sentient beings in that time. And now. Okay, the simple explanation. The details we should know slowly in the future. Another doubt you may don't have now, but you may rise when we talk in this teaching. Okay? So how come you arise that doubt? Because when we gone through these teachings, he will defeat anybody as not Zhentong. Anybody is Zhentong, he will defeat not just Tibetans, but he even going to defeat some Indian masters, include. So then you may think, oh, he must be not Rimé. He must be very sectarian. You may think that. Why you think that? Because your idea of Rimé is, what do you call this English word? The normal, I forgot that word, straw wheels or something. Anybody can help? Tammy Jameson always say this. I forgot this meaning, these words. But the meaning is... you
mean sectarian?
Just, no. Stay where, stay. You know, everybody have common knowledge, but it's wrong. Stay where stuff, or what do you call it?
Common.
Huh?
Common sense.
Stereotype.
Oh,
yes.
Stereotypical.
Yes, say again.
Stereotype.
Not say everybody, say one person.
Stereotype. Stereotype.
Yes, can you spell that?
It is the kind of standard view of the common public, not necessarily true, just the way people commonly think.
If people have that similar of idea of Rimé, then, oh, he's not Rimé, he's very sectarian because he only accepted Zhentong. Okay, so then you think not Rimé. But the real Rimé means is not is distinguishing different views. That's not Rimé. That is, you can say, a pretend Rimé, or you think you are Rimé, or you are political Rimé. Real Rimé paths, they can distinguish very well every different viewpoints. But you know why they have different viewpoints. And also, real Rimé paths accepting you have different viewpoints because you are not there yet, but you are still on the way. So that's why they accept it. So Taranatha is the incredible Rimé, uncomparable Rimé. Why I'm saying this? Because what he established, teachings and everything, for every tradition, nobody done like as much as he done. Even that reason is, we can say he's incomparable, okay, Rimé master. He even non-Buddhist point of views, he still understanding and accepting and respecting. I never seen any Tibetan masters like him as much as can understand even his non-Buddhist views. So that's why, no doubt, if you can very big research, you welcome to. But if you are not bother too much research, please trust me, this is the truth. So when he, in this text, whenever he defeats other people's views and other people's traditions, other people's claims, please don't think he's not Rimé. Don't think he's a sectarian. Every time he defeats this, please try to think he has incredible realization and incredible unconditional kindness and compassion to correcting other people's view. So please keep this in your mind. Okay, that is, I'm going, that's very short introduction. Other things, where he's born, when he's born, who's the father, mother, what he studied, all these things is not the primary important. Those things you can read anywhere. So now I'm going to tell you what we were going to do with this text. Okay? I suggest anybody knows English very well or even know a little bit, please read the translation and try to integrate my explanation. Okay? If you cannot, then you have no choice. You only listen my commentary. I will not read these translations. I'm not relying on these translations. I just give my own commentary. Why? Two reasons. One, my English level is not as good as these who did translation. I have Lodrö, Rimé Lodrö. He done great job. We all should feel grateful for him. Why? Because good for us. If we have some gratitude, helps us to understand this. And more than that, the merits continue to our successful in our Dharma path. The second reason, I'm not going to rely on this commentary because this commentary focus, this is not commentary, this translation is focus more literally corrections. But there's different colors he added because without these add-ins, very difficult to make a sense in another language. If I try to teach my own way, own commentary, then naturally should match mostly. But if there is something not match, that you don't think is bad news, is considered as a good news. Compare is together make more sense. But if there is time to time small things mismatch and contradiction, then you can write down, and then you can, the next time teaching, you can question in written. Okay? Probably we don't question today, question answer, like usual. We try to go text a little bit more, and then you can have question next time prepared. And you can even send it to Chloe or whoever your team leader, and then we can discuss and more clarify next time. Okay. I also not talk too much teaching on this text. I also try to go more simple and try to easy way focus on short teachings, each words, each verses, and not try to go too much details unless no makes sense at all if we don't talk something back information. Okay? So are you ready? Okay, let's say first, just say Om Sorta, Namo Buddhaya. That's just Sanskrit words, Tibetan's phonetic. So Om Sort is basically a good auspicious meaning. Namo Buddhaya means I prostrate Buddha. So we're not going to details this. Some people give a lot of instructions on this, but it's not necessary. Maybe you want to know why pay homage before teachings. Because even ordinary person's life, all the goodness or happiness, where they come from? All they come from, of course, merit of previous lives, but not only that, more current person who is very grateful and great awareness how we are fortunate. Whatever degree of you have good conditions, the happiness is not dependent on primarily the conditions. Instead, primarily your gratitude. Similarly, when you composing this incredible, important doctrine, of course, even more important, you should be very grateful and respect the Buddha. That's the reason. To homage before the talk about the subject. Then, Kang ye he dorji mesje Dr. Stavira Tamak Jomde Nam Hiv. The Nisa Jictin Kyong Hai had Girgeri on that. This also is homage. So, Kang ye shi. Dorji mesje means Kang means the Buddha, the one who's who by tones of the flames. So who the who is has flames of the indestructible flames, and these flames what are going to do is burn all concept of self. Concept of self here put as mountains and forests. But if there is a indestructible fire, flame, burns for even the forest and mountains. So that is basically who understand, have a realization of the Zhentong view. We can say that a simple way. And then say Nam Hib the Nisa. So seven kind of so these seven kind translated as seven types of consciousness, because all these realms is project from this seven kind of the mental consciousness. This seven kind, you already know. The five senses consciousness, and then mind consciousness, and then this afflictive consciousness. Of course, these seven make the whole world, whole realms. If something go beyond that, we can say go under this earth or go beyond that, that is Dzokden. That is the protector of the world. So basically is Buddha. So the God of the God, which means when we're talking about gods or samsaric high beings, and then we're talking about a Buddha, either Dharmakaya Buddha, Asambhogaya Buddha, even the Nirmanakaya Buddha, all of them is God of the God. So that's why I will prostrate this Buddha, pay homage this Buddha. Okay, now Gandhi Danbag Nikap Tata Sir Tamshi Chunin Dalawa Sirston on Jam Shipa Mountain Stoikirwa, Yantagrikir Dam Vision Barsha. So what we're saying is the one who teaches with a different manners of different oceans, occasions. Doesn't matter how many types of teachings Buddha taught, how many occasions Buddha taught, and how many different meanings, even sometimes appears even contradiction. Regardless, whatever appears, regardless talking to who, either lower audience, medium, high, all of them. the ultimate purpose is you will realize the suchness of your Buddha nature. Only for that reason, ultimately, nothing's irrelevant of those. However, Shiba means the childish beings to argue, oh, your view is correct, or my view is not correct, or this is good, this is no good. And even you develop hatred, aversion, everything. And you not just argue, but you also fight with this. And you sometimes even kill each other. Do so many unnecessary or even completely wrong actions, bring suffering for oneself. So, Taranata, he, if you really want to know that, if you really want to argue this, then I will give you the most pit instruction. The priceless, I will give you. So this is he promising. And how to say? This is he made the vow, how, what going to be. Okay? So the next verse, he talking about the subject, he talk about Buddha's teachings, no matter whatever appears, always are valid. There is no such thing not valid, Buddha's teachings. That's he talk about. Why he talk about that? Because he sees some tenets, some schools is not Buddha's teachings as serious as he take. That's why he talk. Okay? So he said, Gangshin the namastak jamtatang yantu tsilu soren zambami. Deti wakchak sanam tangshuk jontun lokpernjer the lokharsha. So he said, in this snow land, there is no chance or no really real mustakpas. Mustakpa means there's no that is simple way is non-Buddhist, but his meaning is more than that. In Tibetan we call mustakpa. Mustakpa means your base is wrong. Your base is unstable. Which means if you don't understand, you have the Buddha nature. And then you expecting somebody above you going to save you. Is not about your quality. That kind of base is wrong. So that's why we call mustakpa. That kind of tennis not meant to be anybody in Tibet. There's reasons why not meant to be. Many stories. But we're not going to details of that. It's not so important. But the main reason is They try to not anybody let in Tibet. And then some come and they debate and defeat and, and also that is on human level, but in some unseen level, they have special Dharma protectors protecting them, not coming in and so forth. So that's why in generally believe there is no real Mertekpas in Tibet. But Nyantu Tserluk not only that, but also Nyantu Tserluk means Nyantu Tserluk means there's no real Hinayanas who going to follow on the Hinayana's path, the Sharvakas and Bhattiyaka's path. There is no. The teachings of this, yes, in Tibet, included in Tibetan Buddhism, but there is no somebody primarily focusing on this Sharvaka and Bhattiyaka's path. That is not in Tibet. Okay? However, Teti Vakshik Sannam Tevchuk Jonton Lokhon de Lokhorshas. Even there is no Mustakwas in Tibet, there is no Hinayanas in Tibet, but definitely they have a propensities. Some people have the propensities of that because they had that maybe previous lives. That's why he said, who ripen that kind of propensities, they to explain the high level of the Khentrul means the supreme vehicle, which means the Mahayana, Vajrayana, mainly Vajrayana, means is include Mahayana. So all these Zhentons, these doctrines, they explain are wrong because they have these previous lives propensity. So he's going to try to stop the wrong explanations. Okay? That's he said. Then he telling the reason. He said, Pagayarun Kirnamar Garvi Sonshin Chet Lonte, Tamanit the Kilinte, require Niba Zapar Zengit, Moxon Jidot, Defshin Tuba, Takshin Garvi Kaman Jizer, Quaratana, Tean Kilinbi, Tanchuk, Dabastan Chunam Limzat, one Namarando Tons on Longaji. So he said, the Indian masters, he said, included that, the Hinayana. Indian masters, as long as from the source from Buddha, these words always are valid. They are believed completely, they are valid. The reason is valid because Buddha conquered all the evils, you can say, all maras, or you can say all faults. He has not even a propensity of the force, afflictions. That's why there is no possibility to talk something not valid. Not no possible talking something false. Every single they believe that, every followers. Therefore, Nyantupa means the Hinayanas, who follows the Bhattiyaka and the Sharvaka path. They say, oh, Mahayana is not Buddha's teachings. Why they say Mahayana is Buddha's teachings? Because as long as you agree the Mahayana Buddha's words, then you have to agree everything what Mahayana said. But they cannot accept what Mahayana said. So then they're saying, oh, this is not a Buddha's teaching. Okay? The reason they're saying this is because as long as the Buddha's teaching, they completely, every single word is valid. That's why they say. So as long as you know, accept the Buddha's teachings, then you have to agree everything. And then the opposite, the Mahayana Sanghas, why they have to always try to establish that Mahayana is a real Buddha's teachings, because of also same reason. But in Tibet is something different story. That's another sin. He's surprised. Because when come to the Tibet, these Tibetans, he not saying 100% of Tibetans, but he's saying the majority of Tibetans. When majority means majority of scholars, of course, not normal person. When so Tibetan scholars say anything that words Buddha said something support on their view and they understand, for them is understandable, then they say, oh, this is yes, Buddha's teachings. And then they try to refer that. Anything not support on their view means the individual scholar's view or this different traditions view. Anything not much on their tradition, on their party, and then they say, oh, this is not definitive teaching. This is a provisional teaching, or they say this is interpretation teaching. Of course, they say Buddha taught these things for benefits or beings. He taught for benefit or beings. He taught these invalid teachings, these interpretation teachings. Oh, this is amazing because Taranatha saying, oh, it's amazing, is for benefit sentient beings, but reality is not matching with the truth. So they say it's not matched. If it's not matched in the reality and is force, then is a force. So if you agree like this, then you cannot say all Buddha's teachings are valid. Because this is not valid, because this is not matched on the reality, this is false. This is invalid. He's saying that. Then he said, if is not matched the reality, if it's false, then is lying. This kind of lying, how come? Who is all eradicated all the force? This Buddha, how come he teach that's false, that's invalid? If Buddha talk like this, then a little bit concrete of the false, the like Sharvakas, Patiyakas, bodhisattvas on the path, these Arya beings, and then all forces and possessed, this kind of ordinary people, of course they talk false, invalid. So if is something talk invalid, and then you cannot say this is Kivatamma. You cannot say this is a valid person. Such valid velocity, valid person. You cannot say valid. So that's why Dharanatha pointing to other schools. Something Buddha's teachings, they interpreted, he said this, you make all Buddha's teachings not valid. You say, oh, it's benefit for sentient beings, but at the same time, you make invalid. So that's no good, he said. So, Tonji San, Yitsanmar Mundotbi, now you jump Tarmawa teacher, Jibaner Gary, quite Sanmer to be long stand bow. So he said, if there is who don't believe Buddha, all teachings valid, all teachings not matched to the reality, that kind of Buddha's follower, that kind of Buddhist, is worthwhile. What's the value of that kind of Buddhist? So, so that's why he's saying all Buddha's teachings are valid. Nothing's, every single, no valid, no possible. That's he's saying. So now he's going to analyze the Buddha's 3 training wheels. He going to analyze it one by one, and each one how come is valid. Okay. So he said, "Wonnam parchirin kolorong samoyo, tang chuken dentum stanshir zin, warwaston stan bi nitonte, shema shemar yopartan shir tanton lots." He said, "Wonnam parchir means the most of Tibetan scholars. Of course, he's not talking about like Tibetans who heard the axe, the shape, and farmers and merchant don't know Dharma. He's not talking about that. But whoever have studied and then talk about, analyze, those most of Tibetans they talk about the 3 training whales, Dharma whales. He said, so they say the first Dharma whale is not true. It's not valid because the first Dharma will tell all the teachings are truly exist. Therefore is false, not valid. They say, the most of Tibetan scholars say, second way of Dharma is definitive teaching. Why? Because these teachings primarily, extensively talk about emptiness. Okay, so therefore is the valid. Because everything is not exist at all, empty of all existence, empty of itself. Everything is empty of itself. So that's why it is valid. It is definitive. The third Dharma will, the final Dharma will, also is interpretation teaching because they said everything is not empty. You know, like Buddha nature, all the innumerable qualities exist, truly exist. So that's why it is not valid. It is not definitive teaching. It's interpretation teaching. He's saying that. Law means which means law means when somebody something is very wrong, then we know that they are wrong, and everybody around they know is wrong. Then you don't have to say agu. You just say, oh, okay, you're right. When you say you're right, but the meaning is you're not right. So he's saying like that way. Law means that. And then now he's going to talk about, he agreed that what they say. The most of scholars thinking the first Dharma will is not true, second Dharma will only true, third Dharma will also not true. So he agreed that. Shirna Tronton Tamshidar Zinsigmans, Vanilin Chocolate den be laughed takala, Gunzub den Baston ba Tronton town, Tontam Mupu Niluk Stone ba la, Nipiton the son shir quirnam dots. He said, in general, if there's any provisional teachings, it doesn't mean is false. It doesn't mean is invalid. Okay? Why? Because for reaching the true reality, the supreme true reality, like Buddha nature, think about it. To lead in there, like step by step, all the teachings of the relative teachings, like karma, cause and effect, all merits, these things talk about. Is that provisional teaching? Yes. But so, but all these teachings, no contradict of the ultimate truth. Instead, forward to realization of the ultimate truth. For the realization, for the leading to the definitive teachings. For these teachings of these relative teachings, for this. That is in kingdom, that means real wise people can understand that. They agree with that. That's he said. Chutek son ir gubartan baken, tanton yenber don mo tam chuken, odashiton shir tanton yetun years. So those, the most of scholars, usually if there is teachings not valid, but there is a reason to lie, this called perversion of teaching. They understand this way. And Dharanatha said this is wrong. If you have the good reason to lie, if it's that case, all Buddha's teachings have good reason. And all of them are not completely match with reality, the ultimate reality. So that's why if you believe this way, then everything is perversion of teaching. He's saying that. Why? Because all of them teachings is for leading to the other sentient beings. Therefore, what you say in a way is all teachings become or interpretation teaching. There's no ultimate, they're definitive. That's he saying. Dharanatha saying. Then he gave the reason why they're wrong. He said, the most teachings and human form, Buddha's teachings, who explain the best, the highest, is Nagarjuna and Asanga, and their disciples, such as Dignanga, Vazabandhu, and so forth. Kamchiki. Kamchiki means the Asanga and his disciples, plus Dignanga and the Vazabandhu. They all agree. All these three Dharma teachings are same purpose, same reason. Then you might see is what different, because the first Dharma we are talking only relative truth. So you think that must be different, but he said that is nothing wrong. Talking relative truth is nothing wrong and not make valid, invalid. Why? Because this is a talk based on what is appear for sentient beings. These all first Dharma wells not teaching based on analyze what is the appearances. It's not make challenging what is appear. It is talk about whatever appear based on that. So that's why maybe there is no line. There is no false. Because all relative teachings on the first Dharma well never said, oh, everything is truly exist. Never said that. Only just say what is, that's all. So then he said, even second Dharma well is valid still. Why? So the second Dharma well teachings you make challenge what is appear of all the samsara and nirvana, everything you make challenge. But you challenge it and based on relative phenomenon, but not based on Buddha nature. Kanzukante, Tathangatangarbha and so forth, you never said, you not said yes or no. You not talk about. No analyzed. So means I think he teaching here, primarily. It's not like you cannot find one single, maybe in the second Dharma well. You can understand that way. But also you can understand second Dharma well and first Dharma well, final Dharma well, all of them is not about time, not categorized by time, not categorized by text. It is more like categorize what you subject, how you talk. That's why. Otherwise, you think, oh, yes, inside in Pashina Paramata, they talk about, Buddha nature, Maybe you can find some words, but it's not that way of categorize. The Tathagata Garbha didn't say exist, didn't say not exist, and not challenge it, not analyzed. And the second Dharma. Tefshir Terni Tama Ton Mangal Onkyang Tanur Kunzov Sortans. So therefore, both first Dharma well and second Dharma well, both not contradict of the final Dharma well, because they both not talk about the Buddha nature. In final Dharma well, then talk about Buddha nature, and this Buddha nature is absolutely exist, but that not contradicting the first Dharma well and second Dharma well. But the first Dharma well, what talk about primarily is the relative truth. Varwa nitun fshetsam tamarna nitun tundam zukhvartam bayins. So here Taranatha, according to Taranatha, he's saying, The first Dharma well is is provisional teaching. Second Dharma well is half provisional teaching, half definitive, not fully. Why? Because half you talk about emptiness, but emptiness itself of the all samsaric phenomenon. That's why you talk about half definitive, but not fully definitive, because you not talk about what is beyond that. The Tathagatangarba, you not talk about. That's why it's half. So then only completion, the definitive teaching is the final Dharma, third Dharma well. Because this is complete, Buddha nature talk about. Nitun tundam zokhar tambay. Napir mantang yikil hopi hui or gontun din jarla ngarwayut. So why this is the most correct way of understanding teaching of the third Dharma wells. But Taranatha way is the best. Why? Because he said the first Dharma well, second Dharma well, the final Dharma well means if somebody is sick, when you very, very sick time, medicine, and medium recover and final recover, have different medicine. Similarly, somebody studying literature, first you studying characters, second meter you how to put them characters together, make walls, and finally how you write poem. Everything is different. So the three Dharma wells Buddha taught that way. So that's why you cannot say the first your teaching, characters, you can't say invalid. Even you are limited, it's still valid. That's what he's saying. This way of understanding is correct. Anything else way is have contradiction. You have problem. So that's why he's saying basically, he's saying how you understand the match and mismatch, the three Dharma wells in the Zhentong way is much more correct than the Northern way. That's he said. The main points. Taur chukan tsuktup nyin ji kataya nirdamngna tunba kataya nirdamngna dorde sultan nangar yo pargersi. Varvar tuntam gaya sultan guhanas shamji sultan nangar yo parger. Basically, he said here is if you want to know Buddha's all teachings, not contradiction, and all valid, if you want to know that way, then you see these three Dharma wells as like before, who is a teaching person, literal. First teach character, then medium, put together, make walls, and then final how to make poem. Everything. That way you have to understand. And the same as the somebody sick, a different medicine, same purpose. He said that way, you have to understand. If you not go that way, you categorize the teachings with time, 3 Dharma wells. If you do that, then he said you have contradictions. For example, if you claim or the first Dharma well is teach it on based on everything is exist based on that, and then the category of the teachings inside. That means Buddha talk first Dharma well, but inside have some teachings belong to the second. For instance, Katayana, the sutra of who's taught for Katayana. This one is contradict in general first Dharma well, because this teaching inside talk about emptiness. That's one thing. Second, whatever inside second Dharma well, there is teaching sutra requested by Bodhisattva material. That one also contradict in general teachings of the second Dharma well, because in this talk about Buddha nature. That's why it is belongs to even our categories in the second Dharma well, it still belong to the Dharma well. And non-contradiction, you have to understand this way. So that is more briefly, he talked about the Buddha's 3 Dharma wells, how you categorize is Zhentong way is much more comfortably correct and non-contradiction. But the other way around is not correct. Why is this important? Because based on that, then all wrong views, wrong misunderstandings and limitations come up. That's what he's talking about, okay? So now I think he going to here talk about a little bit examples. He refrained the Sutra of Unchangeable chapter. Chishkat means said. Ranjur dastar chutam shen fturwartes. Or the phenomenal, Ramjur means Buddha taught Ramjur. Or the phenomenal is Turva. Emanations. All the teachings are emanations. Some of them is emanations of Patyakas, or Sharvakas. Some of them is emanations of Patyakas. Some of them is emanations of bodhisattvas. Some of them emanations of Buddhas. Some of them emanations of afflictions. Some of the emanations of phenomena. So therefore, Ramjur. All the phenomena is emanations. That's what you're talking about. Huh? So what time is it now?
差不多1个半。
啊，
差不多1个半小时。
还有1个半小时。
Already.
哦，1个半小时后是1分。
Already half an hour. 差不多了。
Okay. All these teachings, what he talk about here is the whole meaning, the central meaning is everything is emanation. That means even a Buddha is emanation. Yes, that's why Buddha Shakyamuni is emanation. The real Buddha. Yes. The real teachings, emanations, the real Buddha is the Tathagata, the Dharmakaya Buddha. So that's why. Okay? So everything else, emanation. Include Buddha Shakyamuni. Include even Sambhogakaya Buddha. That means we can say include Kalachakra Buddha or Shambhala realms, everything. Even for Buddha families, everything is emanation. Okay, so that is, I think, meaning.